is the outcome of the Basque corset design I made in this video. A client actually ordered for a dress that I made for myself, which is this one on the screen, and I was able to deliver this beautiful design for her. So ensure to stay to the end so you can follow all the steps I use in making this beautiful gown. These are the materials I'll be using for this dress. So I have this beautiful lace fabric and it's about 2.5 yards, and I'll be matching it up with this linen. So the linen is about 3 yards, and this is it here. I have this velvet fabric as well that I'll be using to combine it. This is just going to be for the upper part of this dress, and this is the cotton linen I'll be using for the upper part, and is matching up. So I'll be using a visible interfacing, which is stay, and I got a black stay, and this is the design I'll be using to put in front for this dress, and this becomes the sleeve for the dress. These are my matching thread, and this is my measuring tape, my scissors, and this is a plastic bone I'll be using for the upper part, and raglan bone as well that I'll be using for the upper part of this dress. I'll be using both of them to match it up. So also I have my patterns ready. So I have a video on my channel where I drafted this pattern. I will link it somewhere on the screen or in the description box below. These are all the materials I need for this dress. So I'll go ahead to cut out these fabrics, giving it the necessary allowance for it. I cut out both the linen, the stay, and the velvet fabric for the upper part of it. So it's about 3 pieces, yeah, 3 layer there. So I ensure you to cut yours just this way. I'll be slashing the front area just to pass my plastic bone, and everything is all set. My 3 piece is there for the linen and the main fabric. So this is the down part of this dress. I've cut everything out. This is the down part, and this is the linen for the down part of the dress. So I've gone ahead to iron it, to iron the interfacing to the main dress and to the linen piece as well. So this is everything we have in place. So we'll be joining the upper part, that's the bust area first. So I'll be matching it up side front to center front and side front to center front for the other side. While cutting out on fabric, I made a notch at the bust point, so it will serve as a guide while joining this together. So I'll go ahead to my sewing machine to join it just the way I placed it this way. I'll stitch it all the way to this other end. I'll do the same thing for the linen piece and for the other bust area. So I'll arrange the linen piece just the way I did for the upper part, and I will stitch it up the way I just showed you now. I went ahead to stitch it up and press the inseam open, and this is how it's looking. Did the same thing for the linen piece, and this is how everything looks. The cup size we're working with is 38. I'll notch the center and place it to match with the center dart for this bust area. I'll use my pin to start from the middle to pin it down while trying to arrange it very well so it won't be gaping. I'll pin it from the middle and stretch it side by side. Make sure everything covers up. So I'll stretch it side by side and ensure that everything is laying flat, neat and well relaxed. So I will use my pin to continue pinning it while stretching it out side by side, just very gentle. So this is how it looks, and I will go ahead to the sewing machine to stitch it all the way around and do the same thing for this other side. And this is how everything looks after stitching it. So this is how the inside looks. I'll keep this aside and work on the front side. So this is the front side of it. I will unpin it and go ahead and open up this place, the center front. I'll use my scissors to slash it open. Remember, I gave 0.75 inch allowance at the center front so that I can be able to pass my plastic bone inside it. So I'll slash it open and also do the same thing for the linen piece, and I'll stitch it just the way I am showing you right now. I'll stitch it with the 0.75-inch allowance I gave, and this is how it looks like. I'll go ahead to press it open and top stitch on it on both sides. For the front yoke, I will unpin it and open it up. Then I'll place it front facing front for the lining piece and the main fabric. I'll place it front facing front. I'll head over to my sewing machine to stitch the neck area and also stitch the down part like this. Remember, on our pattern we indicated where the notched part is, and I'll stop it there. I'll stitch it all the way around and I'll turn it inside out like this. This is how it's looking. So I will try arranging it very well and bringing out that allowance or the notched parts that we have for this front area where the yoke joins with the main body for this dress. So this is the place the yoke will join to the main body of this dress. I'm trying to notch out the seam allowance so it will enable me join it to the down part of this upper part. So I'm trying to arrange everything and bring it out so that it can lay flat, and I'll go over to my ironing table and iron it down. So this is how it looks after ironing everything down, and I'll bring in the front part that I've already ironed out and top stitched on it. This is the lining piece for the front part, and this is the back part of it, and I'll be joining the back parts first. Now let's work on the back parts before we get back to the front part. I'll bring in the yoke for the back part, and this is how it is. I will unpin it and join it. Just turn the neckline for this yoke just the same way I did for the front part of this dress. I'm trying to arrange it very well and place the lining piece on top of it. That's front facing front. So always remember to place it front facing front. So this is it, placing the front facing front. And after this, I will go over to my sewing machine to stitch it up from there and all the way to the neck area. Same thing for the other side. And after stitching it, this is how it looks like. I went ahead to press it flat, so it's looking all beautiful, right? Yeah. So this is the down part of the back parts for the upper side. I made a notch while cutting on fabric for the upper part to know where is the up and the down. I'll bring in the back pattern to indicate where is the side back, the center back, the up and the down part of this piece. So after trying to indicate it, just work with your pattern while sewing as well. So I got to know where is the center back and the center front for it, and I will be stitching my raglan bone just like this. So for your raglan bone, I have a video on my channel on how to use your raglan bone and your plastic bone. So I will face it like this and stitch it. It has to curve this way when you're stitching your raglan bone on your dress. So I will stitch it. I think I will just make 3 channels for it. You can do more than 3 bone channel for it, 2, 4. So I've gone ahead to make the 3 bone channel for it, and I'll press it down, and this is how it looks like after pressing it down. So I will bring it in and bring in also the yoke part of it, and I'll be joining the yoke to the upper part of the back area. So I'll join it and try to make sure you join it using the notch parts you indicated in your pattern or on your pattern while drafting to fabric. So this is how I'm trying to indicate where it should sit, and be very careful and work very well with your pattern paper or your back pattern while sewing your corset. So after getting the actual place I needed to sit or is supposed to sit, I will mark out the allowance I gave for this. So I will make sure everything sits accurately. So this is everything, trying to align and putting it in place so I won't have any fault after making this beautiful dress. So I'll do the same thing for the other side of the back pattern or the back dress. So after making sure everything aligns or everything is seated well, I'll go ahead to my sewing machine and stitch it on this upper parts here and stitch it on top of this upper part. You can go ahead to turn it, as in turn it immediately with your lining, but I just want to work it this way, like stitch it first and before turning with the lining piece or the linen piece for this dress. So after that, I will, after putting it, I will ensure that everything is put in place, and I will stitch it on my sewing machine. And this is how it looks like, and this is how everything looks. So now I'll bring in my lining piece to use it and turn it after making sure everything is seated accurately. So this is lining piece for this dress. I will turn it with the lining piece and stitch it all the way to the side back and to the center back. So I went ahead to add a bone or boning to the center back of this dress. This is compulsory, so if you've watched my video on boning technique, you should know how I explain it better in that video. So I turned it out, and I will use my steam iron to press it down just the way it is looking. So after pressing it down right now, I make sure that everything laid in place. I just want to make sure that everything is working according to the pattern I drafted. So I'm happy with the outcome, that everything works in place. So this is the front part of this dress, and I will go now to join the cup area to the main dress. So I will join it just this way. Okay, I'll also bring in the linen piece and ensure that everything is accurate, like everything is working together. So I'll join also the linen piece to the cup area, and for this joining, I'll use my pin to start from the side front to pin it down, and I'll go over to the center front and pin it down. So I pin the side front and the center front first before going to the down part of it to make sure everything aligns while pinning it with my pin. So this is how I'm trying to adjust it and pin it all the way around it, and this is how it's looking. So I'll head over to my sewing machine to stitch it around, and this is the outcome of it. This is the inside. The inside is looking so beautiful and neat. So this is the linen piece for the front part. I did the same thing I did for the main piece to the linen piece as well. So before joining this together, I need to use my raglan bone and stitch on it. So I'll be stitching my raglan bone just the way I'm trying to open it up. I'll open up the under bust area and pass my raglan bone like this, like stitch on top it, just the way I'm placing it. I think I will go with 3 channel for the bone. I did the same thing for the both side of this front. So this is how the boning looks like, and after ironing it, I'm pressing it down, making sure everything is relaxed. So I didn't put anything for the center front because I'll be passing my plastic bone inside the center front. I gave allowance for the down part like this so that I can able to stitch it to the down part of this dress. So this is the yoke and this is the main dress. I'll stitch it just using the same notched parts I gave on the pattern. That's where I'll start my stitching to stitch it down to this other end. If you work with your pattern very well and you took the necessary allowance you gave on your dress, everything will come out perfect. Everything will come out very well, just the way it did for me. So this is how everything looks. I'm trying to pin it up before going to my sewing machine to stitch it down before turning it with the linen piece for this dress. So I'm trying to make sure everything relaxed, and this is the linen piece for it, and this is the way I will be stitching it after stitching the other part of it. And I'll stitch it to this end, stitch both the side, and I'll leave the down part of it open. So I've gone ahead to stitch everything. This is how it looks. I pressed it down to relax well. This is the inside of this dress. As you can see, I left the down part open, so I will go ahead now to join it to the down part of this dress. But before then, I will need to pass my plastic bone inside. So to pass the plastic bone, it will curve in a different direction. So ensure you've watched a video on my channel on the boning techniques for this corset. So I'll pass it inside just the way I am doing right now. I'll push it and make sure it gets to the edge or to the upper part of the front. I'll make a mark there where it stopped, and I'll bring it out and cut it ½ inch or 1 inch above the mark I just made and push it further inside. So I'll do the same thing for the other side. You can decide to shape the mouth of your bone before passing it inside. So if you shape the mouth, or you can still leave it the other way as the rough edge, but anyone that works for you perfectly is okay. So I will pass it inside just the way I am doing now. Do the same thing, mark it out, bring it out and cut it out 1 inch or ½ inch above the mark. After pushing it inside and trying to readjust or make sure that everything is laying flat and comfortable inside it. So this is the front part of it. As you can see, is going up, like it's not relaxed. So I'll go ahead to top stitch on it there, and after stitching it, this is how it looks. I ironed it as well using my steam iron, and this is how the inside looks as well. So yeah, it's already looking beautiful, right? So you can go ahead to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So we'll be joining this together just the way I am doing now. Before we join this back to the front piece, I will also need to join the down part of this dress. To join the down part of this dress, you can decide to stop stitch around that down part before joining it to the main dress. So this is how I'm going to join it to the main dress. Ensure the upper part matches up with the down part before joining it. So I'll go over to my sewing machine to stitch it down, and this is the outcome of it. I used a design the parts I stitched down, and this is the inside of it, looking all beautiful and neat. I'll join the front part to the back part just the way I did now, and this is how beautiful it's looking. For the shoulder parts, I already joined one of it, and this is how I'm going to do for the other part of it. I will place it front facing front. Ensure the velvet material for the back matches up with the front velvet fabric, and the linen piece for the back matches up with the linen piece for the front, and ensure that both shoulder lines meet up together here before going ahead to run a straight stitch on it. After stitching it, I'll go ahead to use this net material to cut out my sleeve. Use this orange design to put a design just the way I'm illustrating it here. So I'll be making the design just like this. If you have any question, let me know in the comment below. See you in my next video on the screen. Bye.